All right, let's talk about urgency. Now, we're in the overarching topic of discipline. Where does urgency fit into discipline? Well, when I teach a lot of things, I like to teach what I call anchor actions. Now, anchor actions are the thing, if you do this one thing, a bunch of other things will also happen that you're trying to do. So rather than trying to do 5 things, if you just do the one thing, then all of the things will happen. Good example, if let's say we're doing introductions in a face-to-face, like let's say door-to-door environment, I tell people to wave at head height. Now, why? Because it's very hard to wave and frown or wave and look neutral at the same time. Your brain has what's called a neural anchor, where if you wave, it'll smile. Like, I really invite you, try waving without smiling. It's very hard to do. Your brain doesn't like it because it knows what to do. Likewise, if I wave at head height, it also makes me stand up taller, which means I have better posture, I have better status. It shows people your hands. In sales, the first thing people's eyes gravitate to without even realizing is seeing if someone has a weapon or not. And so if I introduce myself going, "Hey, how you doing?" It's very threatening to some people. So being able to let them see your hands, that works as well. And so there's a lot of different things that happen from that one action. If I just tell people wave at head height, they do all of those things. Now, urgency is the anchor action for discipline. Why? Well, urgency is the anchor action for discipline because all discipline is about doing things you don't feel like doing when you don't feel like doing them. Well, when you don't feel like doing them is normally now. And so if you can develop the habit of becoming a more urgent person, someone who takes action right away and killing any level of procrastination or putting things off, the things that get put off are the things that don't get done. Or they don't get done well. Whereas if you do things as soon as you think of them, that actually develops the habit of urgency. The more you develop that habit of urgency, the more you develop an identity of urgency and discipline. And you'd be amazed, in the span of about 2 to 3 weeks, you can go from being an undisciplined person to a disciplined person. How do I know that? Because I've done it myself. I've got the most voracious ADD of anyone I know, but once I realized that all I had to do was do things right away, that would make me a more disciplined person. Lo and behold, I became a more disciplined person and I made a bunch more money from doing it. So really, really important, get your head around becoming an urgent person. Well, how do you do that? Well, the secret to being urgent is just having a rule that I do things right away. And if you can't do it right away, write it down or set an alarm for a time you can do it and make it a rule. Never ignore that alarm or that reminder. Make sure it gets done. If you're someone who does a lot of to-do lists, one thing I tell myself is no squatters on the to-do list. So if something's been on there for a couple of days, actually think to yourself, do I even need to do this thing? Or can I do it as soon as I wake up when I've got a lot of dopamine in my brain and it's easier to do things? Fun fact, it's easier to do things you don't want to do in the morning because up until about 2 p.m., you have the most dopamine and cortisol you will in your day, and then it tapers off through the end of the day. So if you're trying to do things in the afternoon, good luck to you. It's very ineffective. So the first thing you have to understand about urgency is just make it a habit and commit to not miss. What's an easy way to do that? I started with doing my dishes. I wasn't a huge dish doer, and not in a misogynistic way. I was actually in a bachelor pad at the time. But that was one thing I realized. If I just become a clean person, well, clean is all about noticing something's dirty, stopping what you're doing, and tidying it. And just that habit, doing that, you'll get a chance 3, 4, 5 times a day to build the identity of being an urgent and disciplined person. That is a really easy way to become more disciplined. Just commit. If you're going to have one anchor action habit to the anchor action habit, anchor actionception, then just become a clean person. So that's really relevant. But there's also the question, what if I'm a procrastinator? Well, procrastination is actually also really easy to overcome. You just have to know how to trick your brain. So the brain is victim to something called zygarnic loops. Now, a zygarnic loop basically means if you start something, you generally want to finish it. Now, your brain will succumb to that subconsciously, whether you like it or not. And so all you have to do is trick your brain into starting something. And that's where the 5-minute rule comes in. The idea of the 5-minute rule is you ask yourself, what can I do for this task? Let's say you look at a task and you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. You say, what can I do in 5 minutes? Exactly. and you ask yourself, okay, what can I do? What's the little baby step I can do? Then you start it. 9 times out of 10, you actually want to keep going, and you'll end up doing 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even finishing the task. So that's a really useful way. And 1 out of every 10 times, you'll only do 5 minutes. Guess what? You've still made progress, and it's got your brain thinking about ways to improve it. So that 5-minute rule is another really useful way to get that urgency up. But it's really a decision. If you understand that urgency is the most important component of being a disciplined person, if you just make a commitment to being urgent and not missing, you'd be amazed at how much more disciplined you become. And the more disciplined you become, the more you're going to achieve. The more you achieve, the more successful you are. Happy hunting, guys.